The handcuffs
Last
clicked
chance.
over the
Tell us where
sleeves
you
of
got
his
that
spotless
uniform.
white
Verify my
uniform,
identity through
while
the
half
military
the town
coordinator.
watched
Is he
from
really
the courthouse
Navy?
steps.
Everyone stay back.
A police
Record that I
sergeant
can
told him to stop
pretending and lower
pretending,
your eyes. My
to
name and
lower
rank
his
have been
eyes,
given.
to
Sergeant, his
prove
ID
he
has a federal
belonged.
strip.
Please document the
But
refusal.
why did the
Hear that?
calm officer
Sergeant,
refuse
check
to
his
explain more than his
Stay with the
name?
guests. Those ribbons are correct.
Why did
Are
an
you
old
refusing to
admiral in the
verify him?
crowd suddenly
stays
go
behind the
pale
line.
when he
You don't
saw
tell
the
us who to
ribbons
call.
on his
In the car.
chest?
Do not pull
And
my
why
arm.
did a
Finish the
secure phone
transport. His
inside the
credentials are not
precinct start
logged.
ringing
We're past
only
that.
minutes
Then write
after
that
the
down.
cell door
Why won't they
closed?
check? Everyone back.
Maybe
What they
next time
thought
you
was a
won't demand
routine
special
arrest was
treatment.
about
Record
to
that
reach a
statement,
desk
too. I
no
already am.
local
This
badge
is
could
wrong. He's
outrank.
under arrest.
My folder
And the
must remain
truth
sealed.
would make every
In his
witness
property
remember
category,
where they
document.
had stood.
Official, personal,
The
or
courthouse
unknown?
clock
Unknown is
struck
not good enough. My
10:17
identity has
when
not been
Sergeant
verified.
Grant
Noted.
Mercer
You said that
tightened
outside.
his grip
Front desk
on
direct.
Marcus
Let
Ellison's
dispatch take
arm.
it. It says military
Last
coordination. How did they
chance,
get this number?
Mercer
Answer it.
said,
Do you have a Navy
aiming
commander
his
in custody?
voice at the crowd.
Uncuffin.
Tell us where you got that uniform. The cuff had bitten into the white sleeve until the fabric bunched like torn paper. Marcus kept his shoulders square. Cold air crossed the steps, carrying wet stone, coffee, and flag ropes clicking against metal poles. "My name is Commander Marcus Ellison," he said. "United States Navy. I am requesting verification through the military coordinator." Mercer laughed once. "Commander, sure." A program folded with a dry crack. Nora Bell, a reporter in a tan coat, lifted her phone. On her screen, Marcus's white gloves looked bright against the gray steps. "Sergeant," Officer Avery Quinn said, moving in with her tablet. "There may be a restricted entry under—" "Not now," Mercer snapped. Avery stopped. Her thumb stayed on the glass. Near the brass doors, Lieutenant Dana Voss held a public smile, gone stiff. Marcus turned enough to see Admiral Thomas Reed in the second row. The old man leaned on a dark cane. His eyes moved from Marcus's face to the ribbons on his chest. The cane stopped tapping. "Sergeant," Reed called. "You need to check his identification." Mercer did not look back. "Sir, remain with the guests." "He is wearing—" "I said remain with the guests." A council aide studied her shoes. A veteran stared at his program. A woman drew her grandson closer. Mercer moved Marcus down one step. The cuff scraped over the starched sleeve. "Walk." "I will walk," Marcus said. "Do not pull the arm." "You giving orders now?" "No. I'm preserving the record." Nora's phone caught it. Avery heard it too. Her eyes flicked to the small camera above the door. The lieutenant stepped forward. "Commander, or whatever title you're using, apologize for disrupting the event. We can confirm your identity later and avoid embarrassing anyone further." Marcus looked at her. "Lieutenant, the embarrassment is not mine." A breath moved through the crowd. Mercer's jaw tightened. "Put him in the car." Avery took half a step. "Lieutenant, his ID." Voss turned. "Officer Quinn, stand down." The young officer stepped back, but the tablet stayed open. The red scanner mark glowed on the glass, reflected against her fingers. Mercer guided Marcus toward the patrol car. The black door stood open. Heat trapped in the vinyl seat rolled into the cold morning. "Careful with the uniform," Marcus said. "You worried about laundry?" Mercer muttered. Marcus did not answer. His gaze dropped once to the rise beneath his coat, where Elise's photograph rested beside his identification. From the steps, Reed tried again. "Listen to me. I know what those insignia mean." "Sir," Voss said, louder now, "do not interfere with an active police matter." Reed's hand tightened around the cane. Nora lowered her phone, then raised it higher. No one with authority was going to stop this yet. Mercer hovered his palm near the back of Marcus's head. In. Marcus folded himself into the rear seat. The cuffs pulled the sleeve tighter, and a crease split across the white fabric. Then, behind the closed glass doors, a phone began to ring. At 6:42 a.m., 6 hours before the phone inside the precinct would begin ringing, Marcus Ellison stood barefoot in room 214 and watched steam fade from the mirror. The motel heater clicked, pushing dusty air over the carpet. His dress whites hung from the closet door, sleeves pressed into sharp shadows. On the bed lay a sealed folder, his military ID case, and a small photograph with softened corners. "You still think I overpack," he said. Elise smiled from the picture, fixed forever in summer light. On the back, in her slanted hand, were 6 words, "Come home with your name whole." Marcus touched the edge, not the face, then slid it into the inner pocket of his jacket beside the ID. A knock came. "Commander, coffee's outside," Martha Lee called. "Found an iron, too." He opened the door in his undershirt and trousers. Martha, 62, broad-shouldered in a faded cardigan, held a paper cup and a travel iron by its cord. "The jacket is surviving, ma'am." She glanced past him. "That's not a costume thing, is it?" "No, ma'am." Her mouth tightened. "Sorry. Folks downtown get strange on ceremony days." "I've met strange." "I bet." She handed him the coffee. "You here for the veterans event?" "For part of it." "And the other part?" Marcus lifted the sealed folder. The red strip was flat. "A meeting after." Martha studied it, then let the question die. The hallway smelled of bleach and toast. "Come back late. I'll save you a plate." "That's kind." "Practical. Men who look that serious forget to eat." After she left, Marcus dressed in silence. Button, cuff, collar. He set his ribbons with 2 fingers and listened to Port Haven waking beyond the glass. A garbage truck grinding, a bus sighing, gulls crying over the harbor. At 7:31, his secure phone vibrated. Captain Elaine Porter's voice came through low and crisp. "You made it?" "Yes, Captain." "Ceremony at 10. Closed meeting at 11:15. Folder goes directly to Ms. Park. No local copies." "Understood." "The city attorney asked twice whether your visit could be rescheduled." Marcus felt the photograph against his chest. "Then they know enough to be nervous." "Marcus, I can still send an escort." "No." "That was concern, not an order." "I know." "Your name is restricted, not public. Some people there won't know who you are. Then the system will have to work as written." "And if it doesn't?" He picked up his cap. The visor reflected a narrow slice of his eyes. "Then we'll have a record of that, too." By 8:10, the lobby television murmured weather over a bowl of apples. Martha watched him cross the worn carpet, white against brown walls. "Commander," Martha said. He turned. She reached toward his sleeve, then stopped. "Your pocket's open." The inner flap had missed its catch. Elise's photograph showed for 1 second, pale against the lining. "Thank you." He secured it carefully. Martha held the glass door. Outside, October air pressed cold and clean against his face. The courthouse dome rose at the end of King Street. "Hope your meeting goes right," she said. Marcus placed his cap on his head. "So do I." He started down the sidewalk with the folder under his arm, unaware that the same photograph would touch pavement before noon. By 9:48 a.m., King Street had narrowed into barricades, folding chairs, and blue police tape moving in the wind. Marcus walked toward the courthouse with the sealed folder under his arm. Brass buttons caught the flat autumn light. A high school horn tested one note and stopped. The air smelled of damp leaves, exhaust, and floor wax from the open doors. A volunteer in a navy vest checked invitations near the curb. "Name?" "Commander Marcus Ellison." Her finger moved down the list. "I don't see—" "Wait, there's an Ellison under restricted protocol." Before she could finish, Sergeant Grant Mercer stepped between them, square-jawed, cap pulled low. "I'll handle it." The volunteer backed away. Her clipboard bumped the table. Marcus presented the invitation and his ID case. "I'm scheduled for the ceremony and an 11:15 meeting." Mercer took the invitation, but not the ID. "This entrance is for invited guests." "I am an invited guest." "Then wait while we sort out why your name isn't where it should be." "It appears to be under restricted protocol." Mercer's mouth moved into a small smile. Convenient phrase. A red scanner blinked on the security table. Officer Avery Quinn, pale from the cold, with brown hair under her cap, picked up Marcus's ID case. "Sergeant," she said, "this card has a federal verification strip. Run the invitation first." Avery slid it through. The scanner gave one sharp beep and flashed red. People in line turned. A man in a gray suit whispered, "Problem?" "No problem," Marcus said. Mercer lifted the invitation. "Scanner says otherwise. It may not read restricted entries. Or it reads fake paper just fine." The words landed louder than traffic. Marcus kept his hands visible. The ID case creaked in Avery's grip. Lieutenant Dana Voss came from the top step, smiling for two city photographers. She was compact, silver-threaded hair pinned tight, one hand near her radio. "Grant," she said, "what's the delay?" "Gentleman here says he's Navy Command." Marcus turned toward her. "Commander Marcus Ellison, ma'am. I'm requesting verification through the military coordinator listed for today's event." Voss's eyes touched the ribbons on his chest, then moved to the growing line. "We're 5 minutes from seating dignitaries. That is why verification should be simple." Councilman Peter Harlan appeared behind her. "Dana, we have donors waiting." Mercer handed him the invitation. "Restricted, apparently." Harlan looked at Marcus just long enough to dismiss him. "Commander, was it?" "Yes, sir." "Perhaps there's a side entrance for service participants." "I'm not a service participant." Mercer made a soft sound through his nose. Avery looked down at the ID. Under the clear cover, Marcus's face sat beside a barcode and a line she did not often see. Her thumb almost pressed the verification prompt. Voss saw it. "Officer Quinn," she said, still smiling. "Not yet." Avery froze. The scanner's red light pulsed against her fingertips, on and off, as if counting the seconds no one wanted to own. Marcus drew breath through the cold. "Lieutenant, please contact Captain Elaine Porter." Mercer stepped closer, close enough for Marcus to smell coffee. "You don't tell us who to call." "Officer Quinn," Voss repeated, softer this time. "Step back from the tablet." Avery's thumb hovered over the verification prompt. The glass showed Marcus's name, then a gray band marked restricted access. Wind dragged grit across the steps. Below them, a microphone squealed, and the band answered with two uncertain notes. Marcus kept his ID case open. "Lieutenant, the coordinator can confirm my presence in 1 minute." Mercer leaned in. "You don't get to direct a scene you caused." "I did not cause a scene." "You arrived with unclear paperwork." "Officer," Marcus said, "please document that my ID was presented." Her finger lowered. "Quinn," Voss snapped. The tablet went dark in Avery's palm. For 1 second, Marcus's reflection disappeared with it. Nora Bell stood near the press rope, 34, sharp-eyed, curls pinned behind one ear. She raised her phone. "Sergeant, are you refusing to verify military ID?" "Press stays behind the line." "I'm asking what the public is watching." "Police maintaining order." Admiral Reed moved down from the second row. His cane dragged over stone. "Young man, I wore that service dress before you were born. The ribbons are correct." Sir, return to your seat. Read what is in his hand. Voss stepped between them. Admiral, we're not debating insignia. Reed's eyes stayed on Marcus. Commander, who is your command contact? Captain Elaine Porter. Avery glanced up. She had seen that name at roll call, buried under liaison support. Voss saw it and closed her hand over the tablet. Enough, Voss said. Move him aside. Marcus did not move. Am I being detained? Mercer's hand rested on the cuff pouch at his belt. He did not open it. He did not have to. A woman in blue stopped fanning her program. The flag ropes clicked faster. You're being asked to cooperate, Mercer said. That is not an answer. Voss leaned close. If that title is real, apologize and let the ceremony start. The confusion has a remedy. Your pride is blocking it. Marcus lowered the ID case. The leather hinge gave a faint pop. No, ma'am. Procedure is. Nora's phone caught it. Avery stared at the black tablet screen as if it might light on its own. Councilman Harlan hurried over, cologne cutting through leaves. Lieutenant, we have families waiting. This cannot be tomorrow's front page. Then verify him, Reed said. Harlan ignored him. Move him. Mercer took Marcus's elbow. Do not pull my arm, Marcus said. Walk. Avery stepped forward. Sergeant, his restricted entry. Voss turned sharply. Officer Quinn, stand down or I will relieve you right here. Avery stopped. The tablet blinked back to life, asking for a passcode missed by waiting too long. Her thumb failed against the glass once, then curled inward. It's all right, Marcus said. Avery shook her head, but no sound came out. Mercer guided Marcus away from the checkpoint. Nora whispered, Keep recording, to her photographer. Reed gripped his cane. Captain Porter will hear about this. Mercer looked back. Then tell her we kept the event safe. Marcus walked down one step, the sealed folder under his arm. At the curb, the patrol car waited, its rear door reflecting the courthouse columns in warped black lines. The patrol car's open door gave off a stale wave of vinyl and disinfectant. Mercer kept Marcus at the curb, one hand on his elbow, the other lifted toward the courthouse steps. Ladies and gentlemen, remain back. This individual has refused instructions and is disrupting a memorial. The words carried across the stone. A flag rope snapped against the pole. The crowd seemed to stop breathing. Marcus looked at the black door, then at the faces above him. Sergeant, I have complied with every instruction that did not prevent identification. You hear that? Mercer said, still negotiating. I am requesting verification through Captain Porter, military coordinator for this event. Mercer turned him slightly, putting the uniform in view of cameras. He has been asked to produce authorization. My military identification was presented, not accepted, not examined. A murmur moved through the second row and vanished when Voss looked down. A veteran folded his program until the paper bent. The band stopped whispering. Near the press rope, Nora kept recording. Sergeant, did you scan the ID? Mercer pointed without looking. Do not interfere. It's a question. It's an active matter. Marcus saw Avery by the checkpoint, tablet pressed to her chest. Officer Quinn, he said. She flinched. Do not risk your position on my account. Mercer laughed once. Now he's coaching my officers. A silver sedan stopped behind the barricade. Martha Lee climbed out with a paper bag clutched to her coat. Her eyes found Marcus, and the bag sagged in her hand. That man stayed at my place, she called. He came for the ceremony. Voss moved down one step. Ma'am, stay behind the barrier. He showed me his ID this morning. Mercer swung toward her. You verified federal credentials over coffee? No, Martha said. I know what a liar doesn't sound like. Someone coughed. Harlan's mouth tightened. Marcus lowered his gaze. A wet leaf stuck to the polished toe of his shoe. Sergeant, Voss said, low and sharp. Finish this. Mercer reached for the cuffs. Metal clicked in the cold air. Avery took one step forward. Lieutenant, before restraints, policy requires. Stand down. Policy requires a basis. The basis, Mercer said, opening the cuff, is obstruction. Marcus turned his wrists slowly behind him before Mercer could pull them. The crowd watched his white gloves disappear. Martha whispered, "Oh, Lord." The first cuff closed over his sleeve. The second followed, tighter. Starched fabric gathered under the steel ring. For a moment, there was only the flag rope, clicking and clicking, while no one on the steps moved. Mercer spoke into that quiet. Maybe next time you won't dress up and demand special treatment. Marcus lifted his head. Record that statement, too. Nora's phone remained raised. Reed's cane struck one hard note on the stone. Voss scanned the crowd. Place him in the vehicle. Mercer guided Marcus toward the rear seat. The bag slipped from Martha's hand, and 2 rolls tumbled onto the curb. No one bent to pick them up. As Marcus lowered himself into the car, the crowd parted for the ceremony, but the flags kept moving in wind, and the silence around the steps did not move with them. Nora Bell did not realize her hand was shaking until the white gloves on her phone screen blurred. Hold it steady, her photographer whispered. I am. But the image wobbled with every breath. At the curb, Marcus sat half inside the patrol car, shoulders bent to fit the opening. The black door reflected the courthouse steps. Mercer leaned over him. Feet in. Marcus kept one shoe on the pavement. My second identification is in the case Officer Quinn is holding. We're past that. You have refused to examine it. Mercer glanced at Nora's phone. You want to perform for the camera? No, I want the record complete. The phrase made Avery move. She crossed from the checkpoint with the ID case. Sergeant, this has a verification number. Give it to the lieutenant. I can call the coordinator. Voss came down. Officer Quinn, you were told to stand down. Policy says when military credentials are disputed. This is not a training room. No, ma'am. Wind pushed Nora's hair across the lens. She caught Voss taking the ID case without opening it. The leather creaked. Admiral Reed reached the bottom step, breathing hard. His cane tapped once, then dragged. Lieutenant, he said, if you put that man in a car without checking what is in your hand, you will regret the order. Voss fixed on a public smile. Your concern is noted. Noted is not action. Mercer shut the patrol car door halfway, using his hip to block Marcus from view. Sir, move back. Reed pointed with his cane toward Marcus's chest. Those ribbons are not decoration. That is a career. Inside the car, Marcus turned toward the glass. His eyes met Reed's. He gave a small nod, not enough for the crowd, enough for the old man. Voss saw it. Grant, finish the transport. Avery stepped closer. At least log the ID as received. Voss's eyes cut to her. Return to post. If it disappears from the chain, this gets worse. Mercer looked annoyed at Voss now. Lieutenant? Voss held up the case. It will be logged. When? Avery asked. The question hung in the cold air. Nora's phone captured Avery's pale face and the lieutenant's fingers tightening around the case. A bell began ringing inside the courthouse. Chairs scraped. Programs fluttered. Harlan clapped twice. Everyone, please take your seats. Mercer opened the front passenger door. We're leaving. Marcus's voice came from the rear seat, muffled but clear. "Sergeant, I am requesting that my folder remain sealed and with me." Voss glanced at the envelope. "It stays as property. It is not personal property." "I did say that." Nora zoomed in. The phone warmed in her palm despite the cold. Reed's voice rose behind them. "Captain Porter, this is Thomas Reed. I need you to listen carefully." Voss spun. "Who are you calling?" "Someone who answers when called." Mercer stepped out again. "He's under arrest for obstruction. Put that on your little video." Nora lowered the phone enough to meet his eyes. "I already did." The courthouse doors opened, spilling brass music and warm air over the steps. Avery stood by the checkpoint with Marcus's unopened ID case because Voss had pushed it back at her without thinking. On Nora's screen, the red recording dot kept pulsing. Mercer shut the rear door hard enough to make the window jump. Inside, Marcus kept his hands still behind his back. The cuffs pulled his shoulders into a hard angle. The patrol car smelled of old plastic and damp floor mats. Through the glass, the courthouse steps broke into faces and flags. "Seatbelt," Mercer said. "I cannot reach it." "Then lean forward." Avery appeared at his shoulder. "I can secure him." Mercer blocked her. "Return to post. He's cuffed behind his back. He'll manage." Marcus bent as far as the restraints allowed. His white jacket tightened. Something slipped inside the lining, brushed fabric, then fell past his knee and landed by the curb. Avery saw it first. Wait. The photograph lay face up on damp asphalt, one corner touching water near the tire. A woman smiled in summer light. The back had flipped enough to show handwriting. Marcus's breath changed. "Please pick that up," Mercer snorted. "Evidence of your costume?" "It is a photograph." Avery crouched. The pavement felt cold through her glove, gritty with sand and leaves. She lifted the picture by two dry corners. A wet mark had reached the woman's shoulder. On the back, the ink was blurred but readable. "Come home with your name whole." Voss came down, Marcus's ID case under one arm, the sealed folder under the other. "Why delayed?" Avery stood. "This fell from his pocket." "Return it with property." "It's personal. Everything on him is property until intake." Marcus looked at the photo. For the first time that morning, his voice lost its perfect edge. "Lieutenant, do not let it bend." Nora's phone tilted. Behind the barrier, Martha covered her mouth. Mercer reached out. "I'll take it." Avery pulled the photograph back a fraction. "Officer," he said. She swallowed. "I'll log it." "Now." "I said I'll log it." Voss's eyes narrowed. "Quinn." Avery slid the photo through the car door before Mercer could catch her wrist. Marcus took it with cuffed fingers. "Thank you," he said. Mercer leaned in. "You don't get keepsakes in custody." Marcus folded his fingers around the photograph. "Then write that you removed it from my hand." A few people on the steps shifted back. Reed spoke from near the bumper. "Sergeant, listen to yourself." "Sir, I warned you." "You warned a witness to stop seeing." Voss turned sharply. "Admiral, enough." "No." Reed's cane tapped the pavement. "Enough was when you saw the uniform. Enough was when he asked you to call." Mercer slammed the door. The sound cut him off. Marcus sat behind glass with the photograph held low between his bound hands. The wet corner touched his glove, leaving a small gray stain. Voss handed the folder to Mercer. "Station. Now." Avery looked at the ID case under Voss's arm. "Lieutenant, his credentials are not logged." "They will be." "By whom?" Voss stepped close enough for Avery to smell mint and cold wool. "You are close to discipline." Mercer started the engine. Warm air hissed from the vents, and blew dust into Marcus's face. Nora moved with the car. "Commander Ellison, who should we contact?" Marcus lifted his cuffed hands just enough for the photo to show against the glass. Reed understood first. "Captain Porter," he told Nora. "Call Captain Elaine Porter." The station door opened with a buzzer and a push of warm air that smelled of coffee, toner, and wet wool. Marcus stepped inside between Mercer and Avery. The cuffs held his wrists high behind him. Every stride pulled at the white jacket. The clerk looked up from a plastic window. "Name?" he asked. "Unknown male, obstruction," Mercer said. Marcus turned his head. "Commander Marcus Ellison, United States Navy." Mercer dropped the sealed folder on the counter. "Property." "It is not property. Everything you carried is property." Avery held the ID case against her vest. "Sergeant, we need to log this separately." "Then log it." Raymond Soto, 57, the desk clerk, pulled his glasses down. His mustache twitched when he saw the folder's red strip. "If it's sealed official material," he said, "I need supervisor initials." Voss entered behind them. "Mine will do." A radio hissed from dispatch. Beyond the wall, a door closed and the sound traveled flat through concrete. Avery leaned close. "Sir, do you need medical attention?" "No." "Are the cuffs too tight?" Mercer laughed. Marcus looked at her, not him. "They are doing what they were chosen to do." "Bench," Mercer said. The holding area was a narrow room behind wired glass. A metal bench ran along one wall. Marcus sat slowly. The cold came through the cloth at once, a hard line under his legs and spine. He lowered his cuffed hands and felt the photograph against his glove. Mercer stood outside the glass with a report pad. "Subject refused lawful order, provided questionable documents, attempted to interfere with ceremony." Marcus lifted his eyes. "That sentence is not accurate. You can tell it to processing. I am telling it to the room." Soto looked up. Voss placed the folder and Marcus's ID case on her table, unopened. "Grant, keep it concise." "That is concise." Avery stepped to the glass. "Lieutenant, he asked for Captain Porter before restraints." "Noted." "You said that outside." "And it remains noted." Marcus watched Avery's reflection in the glass. Her fingers moved against her belt, searching for something to do, and finding nothing. "Officer Quinn," he said. She looked in. "You returned the photograph." "I didn't want it stepped on." "That matters." She remembered the wet corner, the 6 words, the woman's smile. Her hand moved toward the ID case. Voss saw it. "Do not touch that." "Ma'am, we have not logged credentials. We are managing an active complaint." "Against whom?" Mercer stopped writing. The fluorescent light flickered twice. Marcus folded the damp photograph inside his fingers and closed his eyes to steady his breathing. The bench kept pulling heat from him, inch by inch. Voss picked up the folder, read the markings, and put it down carefully. Soto slid a form across the counter. "System needs a property category." "Documents," Voss said. "Official, personal, or unknown." No one answered. Through the glass, Marcus opened his hand. Elise's photograph had left a faint gray mark on the white glove. Avery turned toward the desk. "Unknown is not good enough," she said. Before Voss could respond, the desk phone rang once, cutting through the holding room like a command no one had given. The desk phone rang a second time before Raymond touched it. Voss raised one hand. "Let dispatch take it." "It's this line," Soto said. "Front desk direct." The third ring cut through the glass. Marcus opened his eyes. Avery stood near the counter, hand by the unopened ID case. Soto lifted the receiver. Port Haven Police. Soto speaking. His face changed. Yes, ma'am. One moment. Voss stepped in. Who is it? Soto covered the mouthpiece. Captain Elaine Porter, Military Coordination Office. Mercer lowered his pen. How did she get this number? Avery looked through the glass at Marcus. He did not move, but the photograph in his cuffed hands stopped trembling. Voss took the receiver. Captain, Lieutenant Dana Voss. We are managing a local obstruction arrest. Do you have Commander Marcus Ellison in custody? We have an individual using that name. Has his military identification been verified? We are in the process of... That is not an answer. Voss turned away. He refused instructions at a public ceremony. Put him on the line. He is restrained. Then remove the restraints. The words landed clean and flat. Soto stared at the property form. Avery's fingers curled around her radio and released it. Voss said, I need confirmation that you are who you say you are. Good. Write this down. Soto pulled a pad closer. Porter gave a code, each digit slow. Voss repeated half, then stopped. Soto looked at his monitor. That prefix matches the emergency liaison directory. Voss covered the receiver. You searched it? You asked for a property category. The folder required supervisor review. Mercer's report pad bent. You weren't told to do that. I was told to log property correctly. Behind the glass, Marcus shifted one shoulder against the wall, taking cold metal off his spine. At the courthouse, Nora Bell stood in wind with a video file at 91%. Admiral Reed stood beside her, cane planted between his shoes. Preserve the raw file, Reed said. You think they'll deny it? I think people deny what they can't afford to remember. Nora pressed send. Back at the station, the phone cord stretched tight across Voss's desk. Captain, Voss said, even if your code is valid, I cannot release sensitive material. I did not ask for material. I asked why a Defense Department liaison was handcuffed after requesting the verification procedure your department received this morning. Mercer looked toward the folder. Avery spoke first. Lieutenant, the folder is still sealed. Porter's voice sharpened. Who said that? Voss's grip changed. No one. I heard an officer. Put that officer on. Voss did not hand over the phone. Marcus stood behind the glass. The cuffs clicked softly as he rose. Lieutenant. Everyone turned. If Captain Porter is on that line, she will ask for the second phrase. Porter went silent for half a breath. Commander Ellison? Yes, Captain. Give it. Marcus closed his hand around Elise's photograph, hiding the damp corner. His voice stayed low. Harbor light before dawn. On the receiver, Porter exhaled once. That is him, she said. And if he is not uncuffed in the next 60 seconds, your next call will not be from my office. The 60 seconds did not begin with anyone moving. Voss held the receiver as if it had grown hot. Mercer stared at Marcus through the wired glass. The fluorescent light buzzed over the bench. Lieutenant, Captain Porter said, uncuff him. Voss lowered the phone. Sergeant. Mercer's mouth opened. Dana? Now. Avery took the keys from the hook. The holding door buzzed. She stepped in with her eyes on the cuffs, not Marcus's face. Commander, turn slightly left. Marcus did. The metal had crushed the white sleeve into a gray wrinkle. Elise's photograph was still folded inside his gloved fingers. I'm sorry, Avery whispered. You're doing the next right thing, he said. The lock clicked. Marcus brought his arms forward slowly. He did not rub his wrists. He straightened his jacket first, then checked the damp corner of the photograph. Soto turned his monitor toward Voss. "Lieutenant, I found the restricted protocol bulletin." "Why didn't it show at the checkpoint?" "It did," Avery said. "On my tablet. I was told not to continue." Mercer's pen snapped against his pad. "You were told to keep the event moving." "No, Sergeant. I was told not to check." The room thinned around those words. Voss lifted the receiver. "Captain Porter, restraints are removed. Open his ID case. It is in our possession. Open it." Voss took the case from the desk. Soto typed the number under the federal strip. A blue box appeared, then a restricted warning. "Status confirmed," he said. "Commander Marcus Ellison. Defense Department Liaison." Mercer stepped closer. "That doesn't explain why he wouldn't just say that." Marcus stood in the doorway. "I gave my name and rank." "You left out the impressive part." "I was not there to impress you." Porter's voice cut through the receiver. "Who is speaking?" Voss shut her eyes briefly. "Sergeant Mercer." "Sergeant Mercer, do not speak to Commander Ellison again unless instructed." Mercer looked at Voss, expecting help. She gave him none. Avery unlocked her tablet and set it on Voss's desk. The same line glowed there. "Ellison, Marcus. Post-ceremony closed meeting. DODIG liaison." "There," she said. "That was at 9:51. Arrest was 10:16. The numbers sat between them like stones. Marcus stepped into the office. Warm air moved over him, carrying burnt coffee and toner. He laid Elise's photo beside the ID case and smoothed the damp corner. "Lieutenant," he said, "my folder." Voss looked at the packet. "It has not been opened." "Then keep it that way until Ms. Park arrives." Porter paused. "Commander, Helen Park is already en route." Mercer looked from the folder to Marcus. "Helen Park?" Avery answered. "Defense Department Inspector General." The printer stopped. Voss wiped one palm against her trousers. "What do you need us to do?" she asked. "Preserve every record," Porter replied. "Body cameras, station video, property logs, radio traffic, tablet history. No deletions. No corrections." Soto reached for a fresh evidence envelope. Mercer looked down at his report, where the first sentence seemed too dark in ink. Marcus turned toward the lobby glass. The bell was faint, but another sound came closer. Tires stopping hard at the curb outside the station. The tires stopped outside with a scrape. Then the station door opened before anyone at the desk spoke. Captain Elaine Porter entered first, 50, trim in a dark service coat. Behind her came Helen Park, 48, civilian investigator, narrow watch, leather pouch against her ribs. "Lieutenant Voss," Porter said, "where is Commander Ellison?" Marcus stepped from beside the glass partition. His sleeve still carried the crushed mark of the cuffs. Porter's eyes went to it. "Why is his uniform damaged?" No one answered. Helen Park set her pouch on the desk. "This station is under preservation request. Return the sealed folder to Commander Ellison's custody." Mercer shifted. It was property. Park looked at him once. "Name and rank?" "Sergeant Grant Mercer. Do not touch the folder again." Soto held an envelope half open. Avery stood by the tablet, fingers locked at her belt. Marcus slid Elise's photograph into his inner pocket. The damp corner brushed the lining. Porter lowered her voice. "Can you continue?" "Yes." "You do not have to." "I know." Helen Park turned the folder toward herself. The red seal caught under her thumb. She pressed the release tab. The click sounded louder than the printer and radio hiss. Inside lay dates, complaint numbers, and names partly blacked out. Voss stared. "What is that?" "A preliminary review," Park said. "Failed credential checks. improper detentions, missing body camera footage in Port Haven. Mercer's jaw set. That has nothing to do with today. Marcus said, today was a compliance observation. You set us up? No, Sergeant. You were given a procedure. Porter opened a binder. Your department received it at 7:05. Avery drew in a breath. Roll call mentioned liaison support. Voss turned. Officer Quinn. No, ma'am. Avery's voice shook, but stayed clear. It did. Park placed a recorder on the table. We will take statements. Quinn, Soto, Admiral Reed, Ms. Bell, and Ms. Lee will preserve what they saw and heard. Mercer stepped back. Civilians? They were present. Marcus looked through the lobby glass. Nora stood outside with Reed and Martha. They know what was done in front of them, he said. Porter nodded to Avery. Bring them in. Voss blocked the path, then moved aside. Nora entered with her phone held flat. I sent one copy to my editor. I have the raw file. Do not edit it, Park said. Reed came next, cane dragging over tile. His eyes stopped on Marcus's sleeve. Commander, he said quietly. Admiral. Martha followed, clutching the wrinkled bag. I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. Park's tone softened. You noticed what others chose not to. Soto cleared his throat. I logged the folder as unknown. Nobody would identify its category. Park wrote it down. Who directed that? Voss said. I supervised intake. And who refused military verification before arrest? The station seemed to shrink. Avery answered before Mercer could. Sergeant Mercer refused the scan. Lieutenant Voss ordered me not to continue. Voss's lips parted, but no useful word came out. Helen Park turned a page. Then we begin there. Marcus stood silent, while the red seal lay open under Park's hand, like a small door no one could close again. Helen Park chose the small interview room because it had no windows facing the lobby. The air smelled of paper dust and old coffee. A recorder sat in the center of the table, its red light on. Marcus sat with his cap beside him, the crushed sleeve folded across his lap. Internal Affairs Officer Miguel Santos, 42, careful with each page, clicked his pen. Commander Ellison, Santos said, start at the checkpoint. Marcus looked at the recorder. I presented my invitation and military ID. I requested verification through Captain Porter. Mercer declined to examine the second ID. Lieutenant Voss ordered Officer Quinn not to continue the check. Mercer stood against the wall. That is one version. Park did not turn. You will have time. Voss sat near the door. The ceremony created pressure. We were managing crowd safety. There was no crowd safety issue, Marcus said, until my identity was questioned aloud. Avery sat beside Soto, fingers tucked in her sleeves. Santos slid a blank form toward her. Officer Quinn, when did you see restricted protocol? 9:51 a.m. Did you report it? Yes. To whom? Lieutenant Voss and Sergeant Mercer. What instruction did you receive? The wall clock ticked 3 times. Avery unclipped her badge and placed it beside the form. The small metal sound made Soto lower his eyes. I was told to stand down, she said. I was told not to touch the tablet again. Voss inhaled sharply. Avery? No, ma'am. Avery pressed her palm flat until the paper bent. I should have called anyway. Marcus looked at her badge. You preserved what you could. I preserved it late. Soto pushed his glasses higher. The folder came in sealed. I asked for a category. Lieutenant Voss said documents, but nobody chose official, personal, or unknown. Was it opened before Ms. Park arrived? No. It was held outside his reach without a completed log. Park turned to Voss. Why? Because we did not know what we had. Marcus answered quietly. You were told what you had. Mercer shifted. He kept saying commander like that settled everything. Reed spoke from the corner. Because sometimes a man tells you the truth plainly. Nora placed her phone on the table. The raw file has the ID refusal, public accusation, and Mercer's statement. Santos connected the phone to a laptop. Wind roared through the speaker. Mercer's recorded voice filled the room. Maybe next time you won't dress up and demand special treatment. The live Mercer said nothing. Park played the station camera next. Marcus appeared on the bench behind glass. Mercer dictated questionable documents. Voss placed the ID case on the desk and did not open it. Soto whispered, There it is. Santos paused the frame. The credential case is unopened at 10:41. Voss rubbed one thumb over the other. I made a judgment call. Park's pen stopped. A judgment call is recorded as a decision. We need the reason. Avery's badge caught the fluorescent light, throwing one bright square on her unsigned statement. Marcus straightened his sleeve. I need the folder transferred properly. Park nodded. It will be. Santos looked toward Voss and Mercer. Then the next statements will be yours, and the camera will stay on. The microphone gave a thin squeak when Marcus pulled it closer. 3 days had passed, but the crease in his white sleeve had not pressed out clean. He sat in the Port Haven Council chamber under panels, folding chairs behind him, and umbrellas dripping by the door. The room smelled of varnish and paper. Mayor Judith Lane, 59, silver haircut blunt at her jaw, held an unused pen. This hearing will review the incident of October 17th, she said. No speeches from the audience. Nora's camera clicked. Admiral Reed sat in the first row. Martha held her paper bag. Helen Park stood beside the screen. Only necessary excerpts will be played. The recording began with wind over the courthouse steps. Tell us where you got that uniform, Mercer's voice said. Park paused the video. At this point, Commander Ellison's identification had been presented and not verified. Councilman Harlan leaned forward. Was the ID clear enough to trust? Park looked at him. Procedure does not ask officers to guess. Santos read from his file. Tablet history confirms restricted protocol at 9:51 a.m. Audio confirms Officer Quinn tried to raise it twice. Avery sat behind him in a plain blue coat. Her hands were locked pale. Mayor Lane turned to Voss. Why was verification stopped? Voss swallowed. The microphone caught it. I believed delay would create a public safety issue. Reed's cane tapped once. There was no documented threat, Lane said. No, Mayor. Then what were you protecting? Voss looked down. The ceremony. Martha whispered. Not him. Mercer's attorney touched his sleeve, but Mercer pulled away. I made a field decision. He challenged commands. Marcus lifted his eyes. I asked for verification. You kept repeating it. Because it had not been done. Park played the next clip. The photograph fell from Marcus's pocket, landing on damp asphalt beside his polished shoe. Avery bent to pick it up. Elise's smile filled the frame. Marcus did not move. His hand closed once on the table edge. Lane lowered her pen. Stop the video. Rain tapped the windows. Santos slid a page forward. Mercer's report states Commander Ellison refused to identify himself. The report was edited twice after arrival at the station. Mercer looked toward Voss. She did not look back. Lane read from the order. Grant Mercer is placed on leave pending termination review for false reporting and failure to verify credentials. Donna Voss is relieved of shift command pending proceedings for supervisory failure and interference with protocol. No one clapped. Commander Ellison, Lane said, you may address the chamber. Marcus stood. Before speaking, he touched the microphone again. It squeaked, smaller this time. I did not come here to ask that anyone be ruined, he said. I came because prior complaints suggested a pattern. Today's record shows what happens when procedure becomes optional. He looked at Avery, Soto, Nora, Martha, and Reed. A system that depends on one person's mood does not protect citizens. It does not protect officers. It does not protect the truth. He stepped back. Mayor Lane signed the order. Outside the chamber doors, a clerk lifted the old checkpoint policy from the courthouse wall. The old policy came down with a sound like tape-tearing skin. A clerk stood on a step stool at the courthouse checkpoint while Marcus watched from the lobby tiles. 3 weeks had passed since the hearing. Autumn light cut through doors. The scanner sat on the table, but a new sign leaned against it. Identity verification must be completed through the listed agency contact before detention. Avery Quinn read it twice. She wore a training badge now. Too many words, Soto said. It needs too many words, Avery replied. People made a short version dangerous. Mayor Lane glanced at Marcus in his dress blues. What's the short version? Check before you judge. The clerk stopped peeling tape. Helen Park opened a folder. Every officer signs the acknowledgement. Supervisors sign the escalation rule. Civilian complaints go to an outside review panel within 5 business days. Councilman Harlan shifted. The city budget will need less than 1 lawsuit, Park said. Martha Lee gave a cough that might have been a laugh. Nora stood beside her, notebook closed. At the table, Avery placed 3 training cards, military credentials, a press badge, an out-of-state medical license. Scenario 1, she said. A person presents identification you do not recognize. What do you do? A young officer answered, separate them from the crowd. Avery waited. He corrected himself. Maintain space, request verification through the listed contact, and document the time. Before cuffs? Before cuffs. The clerk pressed the sign to the wall. Its clear surface caught the light, and Marcus saw the words reflected on the toe of his shoe. Backward, broken by the curve of leather. But there. Reed came in slowly, cane tapping. I see they finally gave procedure a place to stand. Could have saved a uniform. It may save someone else. That is a heavier thing. At the scanner, one officer raised a hand. Commander, may I ask something? Avery looked ready to stop him, but Marcus nodded. Why didn't you just say who you were with? Defense liaison. Inspector General. All of it. The lobby quieted. Marcus slid one finger along the edge of his cap. Because authority should not require a secret title to receive procedure. The officer looked down. And because the next person may not have one. Soto, pretending to file papers, stopped pretending. Nora opened her notebook, then closed it again. Avery lifted the next card. Scenario 2. The training continued. Voices rose, corrected themselves, tried again. Mercer's name was never spoken. Voss's name appeared only in the case summary. The work was smaller than the hearing and harder to applaud. Near noon, Martha handed Marcus a wrapped roll. You missed these last time. He took it with both hands. I remember. I picked them up after the car left. She looked toward the curb. Didn't feel right leaving them there. Marcus opened his inner pocket. Elise's photograph rested flat inside a stitched sleeve, its damp corner dry now, but forever darker. He did not remove it. Outside, the courthouse steps were empty except for fallen leaves. Avery stood beside the new sign and began the scenario again, slower this time, while Marcus stepped into the clear autumn light. 4 months later, the courthouse steps had no barricades, only winter sun across the stone. Marcus stood near the same curb where the patrol car had waited. He wore dress whites again because Admiral Reed had asked him to. The sleeve had been repaired, but if he turned his wrist, a faint change in the fabric still caught the light. Mayor Lane kept the ceremony small. No stage, no band, no photographers beyond Nora Bell, who held her camera at her side. "The public report is final," Lane said. "Grant Mercer is no longer employed by this department. Dana Voss has been removed from command duties and accepted administrative discipline before transfer to a non-supervisory role." No one cheered. Mercer was not there. Voss had sent one written statement, plain and late, admitting that the procedure existed before the arrest and that she had stopped it. Helen Park handed Lane a thin blue binder. "The outside review panel begins today. Credential logs are now audited monthly. Any supervisor who blocks a listed agency contact must write the reason before further action." Soto, standing near the checkpoint, tapped the new sign. "And the computer makes us pick a category now." Avery Quinn smiled once. She was in a training jacket, not a patrol coat. "It also sends me an alert if they choose unknown too often." "Good," Marcus said. That was all, and somehow it was enough. Inside the courthouse lobby, Martha Lee set a paper bag on the security table. "Rolls, for everyone this time." Reed broke one in half with careful fingers. "I used to think old men were only useful for remembering." "You made a call," Nora said. "I made it late." "But you made it." Nora's article had run without a dramatic headline. It named the witnesses who stepped forward and the moments when they almost did not. Letters came after that, first from veterans, then nurses, teachers, drivers, clerks. People wrote about counters, gates, school offices, front desks, and small humiliations that lived there. Martha kept a box for them at the motel. "Couldn't throw them out," she told Marcus. "Not after people trusted paper more than people." At noon, Avery led a training group through the checkpoint. She placed a sample military card on the table. "What do we do first?" she asked. A young officer said, "Verify through the listed contact." "And what do we not do?" "Turn uncertainty into an accusation." Avery looked through the glass doors at Marcus. He gave the smallest nod. Later, Nora asked for one final photograph. Marcus did not pose on the steps. He chose the side wall, where the new sign reflected faintly in the glass. "May I ask what you kept touching during the hearing?" she said. Marcus opened his jacket just enough to show the inner pocket. Elise's photograph rested in a new clear sleeve, the old damp corner sealed flat. The words on the back were protected now, not hidden. Nora lowered the camera. "Can I write that?" "Write that it came home." Her eyes shifted to the photograph, then away before looking became taking. When the square emptied, Marcus walked alone to the curb. The pavement was dry. No leaf clung to his shoe. Behind him, Avery's voice carried from the lobby, steady and patient, asking the next officer to start again. Marcus pressed one hand over the pocket. "I kept the name," he said. The courthouse glass held the pale sky. If this story stayed with you, please share in the comments whether you have ever seen someone judged before anyone checked the facts. Stories like this matter because dignity can be taken in small public moments, and justice often begins when one witness finally decides to speak. Share this with someone who believes respect should not depend on rank, money, uniform, or how loudly a person defends themselves. Subscribe for more stories about justice, quiet resilience, and the kind of change that does not happen all at once, but still changes the room for the next person who walks in.